Mike Grimm, episode number 132. And it's more content from last week's Big Ten Football Media Days when I was in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. Yes, indeed, last week we were at Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indy, site of this December's Big Ten Championship football game. The three-day football preview showcased the approaching Big Ten season. Our headlining guest on last week's podcast was new Gopher quarterback Max Brosmer. You can go back and listen to episode 131 for that great content from the Gopher signal caller. If he's as good on the field as he was in the podcast, then Gopher fans are in for a treat this football season. This week, for episode 132, we'll be hearing from conversations I had last week, one with well-known national CBS television announcer Brad Nessler. He's from Minnesota, and he'll be calling the Big Ten game of the week every Saturday this fall at 2:30 on CBS. His voice, of course, synonymous with college football, so I know you'll enjoy my conversation with him, which is coming up. I also caught up with Big Ten Supervisor of Officials Bill Carollo last week. He gives us an update on rule changes for 2024, and there are several, as well as some administrative changes to the game you'll notice, including the addition of a 2-minute warning coming into play for the first time ever at the college level. And yes, we talk about a certain invalid fair catch in Iowa City, so you'll like hearing about that a little later on. Brad Nessler and Bill Carollo from Big Ten Football Media Days are on this week's Go Gopher Podcast. We're very excited to welcome back a terrific sponsor for the football season. Longtime Gopher sports supporter Cub is back with us for the football season. If you're in a hurry, don't worry. Cub delivers. Get fresh meat, produce, everyday essentials, and more delivered to your door. Cub is the official grocer of the Golden Gophers and proud to support Gopher athletics for over 20 years. And we're thrilled to talk about how great Cub is. They are great folks, and they are great supporters of Gopher sports, so please support them as well. Our Go Gopher podcast is also presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. And our thanks to CEO Brian Slipka for his support of the podcast. It was great seeing him out at the 3M Open over the weekend. Had a chance to chat with him, and he was hosting a few Gophers out there as well. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union is also a big sponsor of the Go Gopher podcast. Life math is complicated, and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union makes it easier with local financial experts available to help in person or virtually. Go to affinityplus.org/Go Gophers for more info. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. They're great community leaders as well with all of their fine work with not just the Gophers, but also Special Olympics Minnesota. We're podcasting episode 132 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe to our Go Gopher podcast. It's free to subscribe and free to listen at any time. You can go back and listen to previous episodes. As mentioned last week from our Big Ten Football Media Day, we had a great chat with quarterback Max Brosmer. Well worth the listen. Go back and listen to that. This week, it's more Big Ten football talk with the great Brad Nessler from CBS and with Bill Carollo, the Big Ten Supervisor of Officials. Stay tuned.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
When we say that Cub milk is the freshest in town, we mean it. Less than 48 hours from farm to store fresh. We guarantee 7 days or more of freshness. It all starts with local dairy farmers who take great care in making sure all the cows are happy and healthy. We support local farm families 365 days a year. And that makes our milk even more delicious. So you always get the freshest milk and the biggest smiles.
The pride of St. Charles, Minnesota. Brad Nessler joins us from now CBS. He's been at CBS. This is the second go-around for you, Brad, and good to see you.
Good to see you, Mike. Last time we hooked up was at Viking Stadium.
Yeah.
The Sid Hartman function, National Football Foundation function.
Yeah, you won the Sid Hartman Media Award.
It was great. I still got it in my office. It's probably the biggest trophy I have down there. But I just told you when I walked out of the stadium that night, I let my brother hold on to it or something, and he dropped and broke it. So they had to make me a second one. So I still have the second one proudly displayed in my office.
Proudly displayed, no doubt. Well, you had done Big Ten before, and when you were at ABC, it was occasionally.
Yep.
Early with ESPN, it was almost every week, right?
Yeah,
with Big Ten back in the day.
Yeah, this is like going back to the future for Gary and I. Our first game together was 32 years ago. Big Ten, a whole season of Big Ten, and actually we may have done more than one season of Big Ten. So, I grew up in Minnesota. Gary grew up in Michigan. So doing the Big Ten was a dream job then, and still is. So, but it was 11 teams when we started, 10 teams. We were not quite that old, so Penn State had already joined when we started doing games.
Yeah.
But now 18, I just shudder at the thought of. I never in my wildest dreams when I was a kid thought, okay, you're going to do college football. It's going to go from one coast to the other coast, and it's all in the same conference. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is obviously a changing landscape in every aspect, and it almost changes by the day. It seems questions yesterday might be outdated for questions tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now here we are. You're right. UCLA, USC might be playing Rutgers or Maryland in a conference game.
The travel is going to be unbelievable. I mean, I just looked at UCLA's schedule, and they are going back and forth. And I did a season of all Pac-12 games one year, and I would take the red eye. Gary and I did it together. We take the red eye after the game was over, and by the time you got home and got through the jet lag and got readjusted to East or Midwest or wherever you might live, you got to go over again. And it wore my butt out, I'll tell you that, So these kids are young, they're resilient, I get it, but there's going to be a lot of lost preparation time. There's going to be a lot of, I got to study on the plane. I guess they still study. It's going to be different. It's going to be hard on a lot of kids.
Yeah, and you think about for you personally, like there's no home games for you, right? You're based in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So like at least if you're the Gophers or you're Iowa, more than half your games you just spend the night locally and play the game. You're traveling every week.
Yeah, it's going to be different. There might be times, depending on where I am, that I'll go stay with family and go home the next day, and at least get a little family time that way, because most of my family's still in the Midwest in Minnesota. But, yeah, I mean, last year there was probably 6 games when I got home on Saturday night because we had our CBS bus, and if it was Tuscaloosa or Auburn or, Georgia or Knoxville or something, I'd make it home it might be late Saturday night, but I'd get to see Miss Nancy before I got to sleep in my own bed. So I got a little adjustment coming up this year.
Yeah. Your Minnesota background, we talked about at St. Charles, Minnesota State. You did the Vikings on the radio for a time. How do you think that shaped you growing up in Minnesota to, kind of the person and broadcaster you became?
I think probably growing up every Saturday listening to Ray Christensen for 45 years probably had a big bearing on me. And, at that time, Ray Scott was doing mostly Packer games, and that type of thing. And so those guys had a huge influence on me, I think, just the fact that this is what I wanted to do, and told my folks when I was probably 12 years old, I'm going to be a sportscaster. And my dad said, how are you going to make any money at that? And I said, well, I don't know. We'll keep trying. But then, going back and doing the Vikings was a lot of fun. I think that was probably my dad's proudest moment because I'd already done the Falcons and he thought that was cool. But boy, when you come the voice of the Vikings on CCO, right, it's like he was pretty proud. So that was a cool couple of years. I did that before I went to CBS the first time. So, growing up listening to Ray every Saturday probably had a bigger impact than a lot of people would believe.
Did you get to spend some time with Ray over the years?
Yeah, he was still working when I would just go up on like Sunday morning after doing a Saturday football game, college football game, and I'd cut a bunch of promos and commercials and stuff, and so he would be around occasionally. So I'd see him then, and that if you worked for that station, that was a really big deal. So had a little bit of interaction with him, and then Ray Scott had a sports bar up there for a while, and asked me to be a guest one time, one of his shows, and so I went to the sports bar, and I was like, I can't believe I'm on the radio with Ray Scott. This is insane,
Yeah.
So childhood dreams come true. You know what I mean?
Amazing. Over your travels, what are some favorite venues you called games from? Obviously, when you're in the SEC, it's big time games every week. Big Ten games got some great venues, some big matchups. You'll have big matchups this year too.
Absolutely. We start off at the Horseshoe, and that's awesome. We've got USC coming into the Big House at Michigan, which is tremendous. Penn State, we did a whiteout game last year, and somebody earlier today said to me, well, you'd never done a whiteout game before. I said, I've done 4 whiteout games, excuse me, but exactly. I can always remember who they were against and all that. So those scenes are awesome. I love going to Madtown. Madison's one of my favorite places to go. Obviously, the West Coast, I haven't been out there for a while, but I've done a game in every city that there's a Big Ten team. I've done a game in every stadium that there's a Power 5 or now Power 4+2 or whatever it is. So I've been everywhere and done everything, but it's just a matter of going back and seeing old friends and reacquainting myself with the folks outside Kinnick Stadium, that offer me the chili on the way in. And I told somebody from Iowa, I said, remind them if you're writing this that I still want some of their chili on the way in the stadium.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Have you done a game in the new, it's not new anymore, the Gopher Stadium, or was it the Metrodome?
No, I did one, and I don't remember who it was.
I was trying to recall if you had or not.
Yeah, so I've done one.
It might have been maybe an Ohio State game.
It could have been, yeah. And they were pretty good. I mean, the Gophers' record was good at the time, so it looked like a big game. It didn't turn out real well, but it was a big game going in.
Yeah. So, do you know yet? Will you have the Black Friday Gopher Wisconsin game?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm looking over here.
I know
for
there's there's a Saturday CBS game that's yet to be announced, so I wasn't sure how the assignment
I think we're doing the game for that. I think we're doing that game. I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll have to get a lot of tickets for that one, probably, even though it's at Wisconsin.
It is at Wisconsin, yeah.
I still got people coming over the border. I'm going to have to do a lot of ticket hunting for that one.
You'll have to get in touch with PJ Fleck or Luke Fickle or somebody along those lines. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you that day. Maybe we'll catch you sometime before, too.
I hope so.
It's always great to catch up.
Always great to see you, man.
Yeah.
And good luck to the Gophers. And wherever I see them, I hope everything's going well, and it's not 5-7 or 6-7 or whatever the case might be.
Let's be better than that.
You gonna be able to throw the ball now?
That's the question. If the quarterback's good, I think they'll be pretty good.
Well, he was at the FCS level, right? So I hope so.
So if that translates, they have a shot to be good.
Keep the backs healthy and keep the defense healthy, and the other stuff will come into play, right?
Every Saturday, 2:30 Minnesota time. You're on CBS.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you, Brad. Thank you.
You got it, buddy.
More Gopher football talk in a moment. First, let's talk about Affinity Plus. It's your local credit union proudly serving Minnesota since 1930. If you're a current Gopher student or a proud Gopher alum, you are eligible to join a financial that wants to build a meaningful banking relationship and put you first. You can meet with a local employee at any of their branches statewide, including one right here near campus on University in Minneapolis. To learn more and find other ways to connect, here's the address. Go to affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. People-centered banking, perfect for Gophers.
Well, Bill, it's our annual visit here as we're getting ready now for the end of summer and the start of fall for Big Ten football, college football, and you're the director of officials for the Big Ten, supervising everything. And I guess we'll start by just giving us an update on what fans can expect in terms of potential rule changes and administration of the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of change on the administration side, and I think it's good for the game, the technology, bringing the technology. And, for the last 10 years, I go to a high school game on Friday night, and they have tablets on the sideline, or they have communications. And, of course, our officials have communications. The coaches from upstairs down to the field had communications. But I thought we could expand it even further to make the game more efficient. So the two main areas that we made changes to was first coach to player communications, and one player on each side of the ball, they'll have a green dot on their helmet, and only one can be in the game at the same time. So let's say it's the quarterback that has the green dot, and the plays are coming into the quarterback. It could be a wildcat, it could be somebody else, but only one at one time, and then one on defense. And when the play clock, the 40-second or 25-second play clock comes down, when it hits 15, we have an independent person hired for the stadium. He'll turn off, or she'll turn off that mechanism, that communications, and it will go silent for both teams at the same time. So that's a good thing. So they can be talking to both sides, making changes, play changes, right up until 15 seconds. But after that, it goes silent. The other piece is tablets on the sideline, and you'll see a charging station on the sideline, and they can have up to 18 different tablets there on the sideline, and they can have in the coach's box. They can have some upstairs. Medical people can have tablets also there on the sideline, the trainers. And so I think that that's really good because they're looking at video right away on these tablets. And in the past, they were sitting up with my replay people looking at the game and looking at all the replays that we get. We get everything in replay. And we'd put a medical spotter up there, and that always helped when you have injuries. And if we didn't see it, because our direction to my officials are recognize and refer. Recognize that we have a problem. He got up stumbling a little bit, and maybe he was dazed, or we just knew it was a hard hit. And sometimes they pop up and not a problem. But we go in there and check with them, and that's why we don't have tinted eye shields. We want to see their eyes. We want them to answer a couple simple questions. And if there's a hint of player safety, we refer to the sideline, and they have to sit out for a play. So that's a good thing. The communications and the tablets on the sideline, and I think the tablets not just for play calling, but for medical reasons.
And with those tablets, I could see the ability to see the replay right away. What happens if a coach sees a replay, doesn't like what maybe one of your guys has made the call on the field, and runs up and says, look at this.
Yeah. Well, that'd be the last resort, coming up to one of our officials, even the alternate on the sideline, who's not in the game yet, but he's part of the officiating crew. That's the last resort that he should even consider. And we've coached our guys to, you cannot look at that. We've told the coaches, you can't bring that to them. But the next step for the coach, if we clearly called touchdown and it was not a touchdown on his tablet, he can prove it. I mean, there's a big board, right? In the past, they've been pointing up to the north end zone. We got to, look at that. And the reality is they can still do that, and there's no problem. But if they come up to the official with the tablet, even the alternate on the sideline who's not in the game, if they show us the play, it's a penalty. You can't.
So you can point to the scoreboard but not show the tablet.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But what they see, that if there's evidence, and there's clear evidence to make that demonstrative of a stop and draw the attention to the officials, you should challenge the play, right?
Yeah.
If it's that close, our guys should recognize it, and we should challenge it first. But if we don't, then it should be challenged by the coach. And he can, as long as he has a timeout and a challenge, he can challenge that play, and he doesn't need to show it to him, and he'll save himself, some yardage on a penalty, by showing us that. And we're not, we just don't want them to. Someone will do it somewhere in the country. Someone will do that
and get a 15-yarder.
Yes, exactly.
And I almost always that play would be reviewed if there was some doubt. It would be buzzed down anyway, right?
Yeah, if it's close, we're stopping it.
Yeah.
We want to get every play right, but if the teams are going fast, and it's either, and he's on defense, but he didn't catch the ball, and you better challenge it, because they can snap the ball pretty fast and stop the play. But I think the technology piece of it, whether it's tablets or communication, and we put in communication with our officials so we can talk, so we don't have to run across the field. Okay, Mike, what did you call? Okay, I'll go back and tell the coach what we called. And it's just more efficient.
Right.
And you can get the plays in a lot quicker, with the coach to quarterback. I mean, we don't have all the signs on the sideline. We don't have three players, one's live, two are dummies, and it's a lot of extra entertainment on the sideline. We don't need to have that, and I think we can be more efficient.
Yeah, I like the on-field communication. There's been some quick fixes where you haven't had to have one of your officials run down to the 20-yard line, look. It's just, hey, we know it, we nail it, just move it from the 20 to the 22, it's first down or whatever. I like the speed with which some of those decisions are so clear and so quick, you don't have to break the whole thing down.
Yeah, we can do that more efficient, and it's official to official, replay booth, or even Chicago now with the replay center, they can call in and say, put the ball at the 43-yard line, second down.
Right.
Ball skipped in, incomplete. And we don't have, we call it quick reviews. We don't have to take a minute and a half to go look at a replay and make a big announcement. Just move it and then make a quick announcement.
Yeah, even the NFL's starting to do that.
Yeah. Exactly. They're actually pretty good at it, and they've been a little ahead of us, but we've been doing it the last 3 years now, and I like what we're doing.
Yeah, no doubt. 2-minute warning comes into play now in college football. Has not been in college football. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think we had about 95% NFL rules to college rules, about 95%. And there are certain things I get, 1 foot versus 2 feet for catches, and, the plane of the goal line is a little bit different, and, punts and touchbacks and a little bit different. It's a little confusing to the fans, but I always liked the 2-minute warning. It kind of resets everything. And we had a 2-minute warning or a 2-minute mark, and we changed some rules. And then we've got under 1 minute, 59 seconds and below, 10-second runoffs and so on. And it was just easier and clearer to put one demarcation in the game, 2 minutes left, same as the NFL. We talked to TV. TV liked it. They're going to save a timeout. Radio will save a timeout. And so we're not taking more timeouts and selling more ads or anything.
But at a time when everyone wants to crunch the game, this isn't adding 2 minutes of time.
Yes, but it just made it a lot easier to manage the game. And all the rules are tied into the 2-minute mark versus some at 2 and some at 1. You had to memorize them and really know them, and coach didn't know them, so we had to tell him, Coach, we're going to wind the clock. Or, no, Coach, you fumbled forward out of bounds, we're going to come back and it's going to be dead, that type of thing.
Right.
So it changed, and it'll be good. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and everyone can catch their breath.
I mean, the year before we said, okay, first downs, we're winding, unless it's under 2 minutes. Well, that's the mark, 2 minutes, everything under that.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the old school.
And then it goes in.
Yeah.
4 new teams in the Big Ten now. Does that increase your pool of officials? Will some of those Pac-12 guys that now have maybe been left out, will they be absorbed, or how will you handle all of that? Yeah,
we were fortunate to know that 2 of them, UCLA and USC, were coming in, a couple of years ago in June, and we and I didn't have any. We didn't tamper. We didn't go after anybody. But I knew we were going to have to hire some people eventually. But the people that applied, and there were several of them from the Pac-12, they've been applying over the years, and they just wanted to get into a premier conference, I think, and it was a long ways away, not knowing that for sure USC and UCLA are coming, but they applied. So I actually last year hired a new crew before we had any of the teams in. So I was out ahead of it, and I actually hired the people I really wanted badly. And I got them a year early, and it cost, we added, it cost our existing officials a game because we brought a new crew in, and we didn't have any extra games. So we shared it. It was equal for everybody. And then we brought Washington and Oregon in, so I had to bring another crew in. And that crew wasn't 100%. Pac-12, but I've been recruiting all over the country because people are applying, and we're trying to get the best officials for the best conference in the world, and we feel lucky that we did that early enough. We got the people, I picked the people that I really wanted, and a lot of them were head referees, but I didn't have a spot for everyone. One made it as a head referee, and some are, in waiting, if you will. They had to work another position. If they're good, they can do that, and I think we bolstered our staff, both on the field and also in the replay booth. And some of the people that we brought in had experience running a center where we didn't have a replay center of our own. I mean, we went to DV Sport last year, and we had people there. But so I think it was a really nice advantage to get in early, get a full crew in, get about 8 or 9 people in early before they started conference play, coming to our conference officially. And so we're in good position. I like where we're at. We just had all the referees in. When I say referees, all officials in, several hundred of them, almost 300 last week, Wednesday through Saturday in Chicago for training and onboarding, indoctrination, if you will. But half of them that came from the West Coast, they've already been in the league. They've been working in Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, all over the place. Had a full schedule, and they know the coaches. But this year we have 7 new coaches. The 4 that are coming from the West Coast, plus some new coaches in the Big Ten. And what we did this year, back in June, I had our or May, I had all 10 of our head referees go out to our coaches meeting for 3 days and spend time out in California. So they got to meet the head referee. So it wasn't like 15 minutes before on September 1st, they're shaking hands with who is this official that's going to run my game here. So that was really good, and that was well received.
Going back to 2023 and just in general with now 4K TV and super slow-mo replays, and you can blow up the picture, I suppose fans are able to see things in such a way that officials in live speed can't. So maybe more scrutiny than ever with officials. Replay, all this stuff gets broken down. How do you think generally 2023 went for the Big Ten?
Well, there are always a dozen plays that are, probably more than a dozen plays, but I'm saying that went to replay that were clearly 50-50 that, and we know in the rule book is really clear. If there's not indisputable video evidence, you
stay with it.
The call on the field stands. So we've had a few of those, not real popular. When they're 50-50, I could go either way. So Mike, the answer is, okay, what do they call on the field? Oh, they called catch, or they called touchdown, or they called targeting. And I can't prove it. Well, then in the first couple, touchdown and catch, it's going to stand no matter what was called, unless I have absolute proof that I can overturn it. Targeting is a little different. Targeting, because we were disqualifying players that were kind of thin, kind of marginal, and we erred on that side, 60-40. It wasn't 50-50. That we'd throw them out. And I didn't like that because that's a heavy penalty. But I get player safety, and I get how serious, targeting is. And the players now are keeping their head up. They're wrapping up with their arms and making a conventional tackle and moving the head to the side. So those things, and now we let the replay person actually re-officiate the play. And if I can't prove it, it's not targeting. And we used to kind of enforce just the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, but the 4K and all the technology, the fans see it, but so do my replay people. My people.
No question.
We just put a huge new center in Chicago to overlook all the replays, and the technology there is spectacular. Of course, having the best technology in the world, the best center in the world, is one thing, and I'm really proud of it. But getting the right people, because people are the ones that are going to decide, not the technology. Right. But the technology puts us in the right position that we can see it, and these inbounds, it's going to be a score.
Last one for you. The most talked about call last year happened in the conference. I was at Kinnick Stadium that day, the invalid fair catch. If you ever had to explain a rule more in a short amount of time, of course, people in Minnesota loved the ruling, which was correct. You guys got it right eventually. People in the state of Iowa weren't quite much fan of the call. But again, rule-wise, it was 100% right.
But I'll also say, we can be real technical and say that it was handled properly. And it was the way it came down to replay. You can't waive. Here's where we made the mistake, though, Mike. We should have blown the whistle when we saw the first wave. Just one wave.
Once he touched it, then it's over.
Well, not touch, but he has to get control of it.
Yeah.
He could muff it and it's still a live ball.
True.
But you could never advance it after anyway. A valid, invalid, good signal. You can't advance.
And you see that a few times a year.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think Minnesota had it called against them. Either earlier that year.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, in that. So it's not like we've never called that before, but we got it on the field. We blew the kid may start running, but eventually we're killing it down, and they go 10 yards, and and we protect the players. So we should have killed it right away, and we wouldn't have this discussion. And we did have to explain it. And I know Iowa wasn't pleased with it, but certainly by the letter of the rule, it's a reviewable play. And so replay could look at, and they should look at those plays. And if they see an infraction, they have the right to throw the flag, if you will, and stop the play. But it's not a flag, but it's a reviewable play, and it just should have been blown dead at the midfield.
Right.
So I had to explain a few times today.
And there was some confusion, and maybe not confusion. In fact, we in the radio booth, we thought it was being reviewed to see if the kid had stepped out of bounds.
Exactly.
And maybe that's how it started. I don't know. Yeah. But then it opens everything up, right, for review?
Right. It could be a targeting, blindside shot, step out of bounds. His knee was down when he was trying to get the ball. Once we stop it, everything's back on the table. It isn't because he was close to the sideline, that left foot, maybe he took a jab step and he didn't. But we look at it, once we do stop it, we have to look at everything. It is, and you might find, what are they stopping for? And there's a targeting on the other side of the field, or a blindside hit, that type of thing. We have to look at targeting. So, it was a big play, and it was a terrific return by the player. And And, it was unfortunate that we didn't handle it properly, and we had owned up to it, and we said we could have handled that play better. But as the result, when it got to replay, they did it.
The call was correct.
Yeah, it was a correct call.
Yeah. Well, very good. Always great to see. It means football's around the corner. We always appreciate joining us and getting us up to date with all the new stuff and just to get your thoughts on everything. Good luck with the season coming up.
Good. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the time.
My thanks to Bill Carollo, supervisor of Big Ten officials, for his insight, and hopefully that will help you get ready for the football season, which is fast approaching. The Golden Gophers open the season with a non-conference game at home against North Carolina on Thursday night, August 29th. Also, a special thanks to the great Brad Nessler for joining me to preview his re-arrival to the Big Ten Conference. He'll be doing the CBS Game of the Week every Saturday from the Big Ten at 2:30. Episode 132 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, a locally member-owned full-service financial invested in you. You can learn more at affinityplus.org/Go Gophers, affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. And Cub is a proud supporter of Gopher Athletics for over 20 years and a proud sponsor of the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm. Beat the heat and save big with Cub. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please right now be sure to click that subscribe button to the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to subscribe and free to listen at any time. And please share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe and listen as well. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, please offer some positive feedback. We'll talk again next week.
Soak up summer and all that's fresh at Cub. Find everything you need to savor the season at great prices you love. Pick up a hot deal on pork shoulder roast, only 99 cents per pound. For easy dinner ideas, go to Cub.com for recipes. Everyone's favorite summertime treat, cut seedless watermelon, is 79 cents per pound. And Pepsi, Mountain Dew, or 7-Up 12-packs are $3.98 each when you buy 4. My Cub, my way. See store for details.